Wanted to share one more miracle with you. One day, this happened all of a sudden. My mom ended up um, in an event for her first time in her life. And when I went to go see her at the hospital, she looked like an astronaut, like a balloon blown up with all these machines hooked up to her. I didn't even know who she was. And I was close to the doctor because I would work for that same doctor. He was my doctor, and I worked for him too. The best doctor ever, and his name is Dr. Peterson, as a matter of fact. He's an amazing doctor in Florida, and he told me, we'll see what happens, but the numbers don't look good. So her labs were off, and she was doing really bad, and it was just that night. It was supposed to be either she was going to make it or not. Even though they intubated her and all that, but her numbers looked bad, like she was shutting down totally. So that night I went to temple, you know, and I prayed, and I'll remember that night. It was a very cold night. It was a very rainy night. It rained like cats and dogs. It rained, and I went and I prayed to Kali Ma and Durga Ma. And when I went there, I felt the doors open up for me because the temple never opened at that time. It was really late when I left the hospital, but I went. And when I went, the doors almost like opened, widely open for me, and I cried and I kneeled down to Kali Ma and Durga Ma. And I said, please, God, don't take my mom away from me. Take everything away from me. I don't care. You can't take my mom away from me. I'm not ready for her to go yet. I'm not ready for her to go. She still needs to see her grandchildren grow up. You can't take her away from us. I'm not ready. And I prayed and prayed. I don't know how long I was there for, but I was crying. I was sobbing. I was sobbing so much, like my shirt was wet from the rain. My shirt was wet from my tears. And I looked in Durga Ma's statue in her eyes, and I said, you're a mother too. You're like Mother Mary, but the Indian version of it. How can you take a child, a mother away from a child? You're a mother, you know how that feels, right? Or you should know, or something like that. I had said that you're a mother. How can you take a mother away from a child? That's what I said. And I cried. Did I cry? And then it rained all night like cats and dogs. In the morning when I woke up, well, after I went home, in the morning I woke up, there was no rain. It was very peaceful. And I knew when I went to the hospital, I just knew that the doctor was going to give me a different story. It was going to be like, she's doing better. And I had felt like, okay, he's going to say everything's good now. Like she's going to come out of this. But he did guide me to go home and make funeral arrangements. And then I was upset and Mother Mary, which is, or Mother Kali, or, I was just upset with and then I prayed. I just prayed. And I said, I thought you listened. Like, what happened? You know? So I just gave up and I accepted. I said, okay, I guess you want her to go, huh? And then I heard, she's not yours. She's ours. She's heaven's. Your mom is never yours, she said. She's ours. She's created by God. And I never understood that, but now I do understand it. So I went home and I made funeral arrangements. I didn't even tell anybody, but I made funeral arrangements. Like, literally was looking for funeral homes because I knew if we took her off the vent, she was going to go. But he said, that's how bad she was doing. Now, this story happened many, many, many years ago when I was like 28 years old, actually. So, guess what? After I made the funeral arrangements, I had already accepted that my mom was going to go, and I was really angry at God. I was just like, why? I thought I prayed. I thought you would listen. What happened? You know? And then I had just accepted, okay, she's going to go. And I have to put my mindset that she's going to go. So then the next day I went to the hospital and they said she was doing much better. And I brought her home and I took care of my mom. But here's the sad thing, she came home with a trach. I don't know if you guys know what a trach is, but she had to breathe with a trach. And when she looked at me, she was mad. And then I took her to the doctor, after a follow up. I mean, she was in the hospital for a very long time in ICU, but after all that, after rehab and all that, I did bring her home. And then she came home with a trach, and we had to change the trach all the time. And she was mad at me, but she couldn't talk, because of the trach and all that. And she was different. She wasn't herself. But she didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was because she had ICU psychosis. So I planned to get her a little puppy, and I got her a cute little puppy, and that puppy helped her remember me, remember the family members. She snapped right out of it. That puppy gave her so much love. And then anyways, she was mad at me that why did I let her go, but it was not her time to go. And I did and then after she was doing better and she got her memory back, she finally told me what she saw. I go, well, what did you see, Mom, when you were in a coma? Because she was in a coma. And she said she saw me as a little girl and I was crying and I was saying, no, Mommy, don't go yet, don't go yet. And when she went up there, God said, it's not your time yet. I have to send you back. And I didn't want to come back. She said, but God said, it's not your time yet. But God sent her back. But she had to go through a lot those years to recover all that. And we all try to help her. We all try to pitch in and take turns of helping her and all that, which was hard. But after I think a year and a half or 2 years with her trach, or almost a year and a half, one Easter, she was mad because she didn't want the trach. I mean, who wants a trach? It was like an inner cannula. I don't know if you know what that means, but she had a trach, like an airway, where she can breathe from. So the doctor told her if she lost 50 pounds, then they can maybe take it out. And she did. She lost 80 pounds, but the doctor says she was doing better, but she didn't need oxygen anymore, but she still needed the trach because she understand. But one Easter morning, the trach just popped out, and she never called me. I was at work, and when I got home, my dad called me, said that the trach popped out. She didn't want to go to the hospital. What should I do? So I said, well, is she okay? Is she breathing? And he's like, yeah, she's fine. So I had called her nurse, and the nurse had just covered it up. So we took her to the doctor, and he said, just leave it out. She's doing fine. So we left it out, and her trach was out one Easter morning, and that happened on Easter morning, and I was so happy because it happened on Easter. So I'm sharing you my story. Just because the doctor said something, it doesn't mean that was going to happen. Here I was making funeral arrangements, and here she was. And after that, she lived 15 more years after that. 15 more years. Yep, I believe. Yep. That isn't that something? 12 or 15 more years she lived after that. Yep. So just because what the doctor says, it doesn't mean it's always going to happen. It's what he says. That's my point. It's what he says. He's in control. Only he is in control of your breathing. He's in control of you. He. He, who is he? He is your God. He is your creator. He creates everything. He controls everything. He knows what's best for you. I can hear my mom say, thank you for sharing my story. Oh, you're welcome, Mom. So then, my mom's not alive right now. Of course, I'm sure you heard she's passed away and all that. And she's become my spirit guide, and she sends me messages all the time. But anyway, thanks for listening. And just wanted to share my second miracle with you guys. Thanks.